Welcome to another episode of the Gull Mouth Action Podcast, where we take a look at all the latest goings on at Brighton, Hove Albion and Crawley Town. I'm Matt Polt, and this week I'm joined by Sam Morton, who covers both Brighton and Crawley, Albion writer Henry Bryant and Ron Alderman, who's been keeping an eye on all things Crawley Town. Brighton's pre-season preparations ended with a fine win over Wolfsburg, as attention now turns to their Premier League opener against Fulham, but Crawley Town remain winless in League Two and were dumped out of the Carabao Cup. This week, we'll look at who impressed for the Seagulls against Wolfsburg, bring you all the latest team news ahead of Albion's curtain raisers against the Cottagers, and reflect on a disappointing week for the Reds. You can read all the stories we talk about, videos and pictures online at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. And we will start, as ever, at Brighton Hove Albion, who wrapped up their pre-season preparations on Saturday with the 2-1 home win over Bundesliga outfit Wolfsburg. Jorginho Ruta and new signing Maxime de Kuyper netted for Seagulls before Rogerio pulled one back for the visitors. Sam, you were at this one for us. What did you make of the Seagulls' performance, and who stood out for you? It seemed like the best way to end what has been a positive pre-season.
Yeah, it was a good win for Brighton. Obviously, as we mentioned before, the results aren't what pre-season's all about. Obviously, it's about getting minutes into the legs, getting the fitness ready for the Premier League campaign. But Brighton were pretty much at full strength for the game, except for the absent Carlos Baleba, who we'll be discussing a bit later on. But Brighton were fluid going forward and looked pretty good, to be honest, and put Wolfsburg's defence under a lot of pressure. And there were some really nice moves between the attackers that was spearheaded by Jorginho Ruta. And you had Diego Gomez involved as well, and the pair did link up really nicely for the first goal, and it was Gomez that set up Jorginho to score from a tight angle on the 17th minute, and it was a really lovely finish. But Wolfsburg were a threat for most of the game, actually. As fluid as Brighton were going forward, they were quite open defensively. And Wolfsburg really were able to get in behind them quite frequently, and alarmingly so, probably from a Brighton point of view. And Bart Verbruggen, who was back in goal after a minor injury, was superb for most of it, to be honest. He made some exceptional saves. There's a bit of a mishap very early on, but he recovered really well. The offside flag saved his blushes a little bit for that one, but he recovered so well and made some brilliant saves. And Brighton were able to double their lead after stopping Wolfsburg scoring on a number of occasions. They managed to double their lead, and it was the new signing Maxime de Kuyper that scored again from quite a tight angle. He was in the right place at the right time after some sustained Brighton pressure. And it was a good moment for him. He's really impressed in pre-season. He's obviously Estepinian's replacement at left back, and he's a real threat going forward, and has done well defensively as well. So that was a real high point from the match. Was Kuyper getting his first goal. But they couldn't keep a clean sheet, Brighton, and Wolfsburg got the goal they deserved. It was a really powerful shot from kind of on the edge of the box that Verbruggen probably could have saved and would have expected himself to save. But I don't think it affects what was a brilliant performance from Verbruggen all round, really. And Brighton didn't have a repeat of that draw against Southampton, and managed to see out the 2-1 win to end pre-season on a high.
Well, as you mentioned, Sam, the biggest news since the last pod has been the rumours surrounding Albion's Carlos Baleba. Manchester United reportedly contact Brighton through intermediaries to explore a potential move for the 21-year-old Cameroon midfielder. Baleba has not played for Brighton in their last four pre-season friendlies, due to a knee injury, which he picked up during Albion's training camp in Marbella. What do you make of these rumours, Henry? United may want Baleba, but by all accounts, it sounds like Brighton will not be moved on this.
Yeah, it's another one of those situations where Brighton have been able to develop a quality talent in midfield, and someone wants him. And as frustrating as that is for Albion fans, that's sort of the natural progression. But in terms of Man United, they're very keen on making this deal happen before the end of the window. Their biggest frustration, though, is the fact that Brighton are extremely well run and organised, as we've seen in the past. They'll be wanting replacements. They'll want to have everything on their side, all suited and booted and geared up for, that transfer, so that they can bring someone else in, or that they feel confident enough that someone else can step up to the plate. So they're not going to panic sell, I don't think. And Brighton have also valued Baleba at around that £100 million mark, which is also sort of being contemplated by Manchester United. They don't want to pay that sort of money. It's reported that Baleba is interested in the move, and as Sam reported recently, doing a story on it, multiple Man United players have been in touch to explain the setup, apparently, according to a Man United reporter on X. It's not revealed what Man United players have been contacting the Cameroon international, but we have seen that he has got a compatriot at Old Trafford in Andre Onana and his former Lille teammate, Lenny Yoro. The thing is, though, as we mentioned, Brighton aren't going to rush anything, and reports are now suggesting that Man United will calm potentially their interest if they can't get him this summer, and there'll be an all-out bidding war in the next summer transfer window. So, yeah, we'll see. Brighton are very good at this. They know what they're doing. They're smooth operators, and we'll see, I guess, in the next few days what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think he's got a contract to, was it 2029, Henry, or something like that? So if they were to accept, would it be a fee that you'd imagine would dwarf the one paid for Caicedo?
I don't think dwarf, just because of the sheer amount of money Caicedo went for. And also we were talking about Chelsea, and they're still in their Todd Bowley era, but they have sort of calmed their massive sort of lump sum in terms of one player spending. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's similar money. I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's just from an Albion fan's perspective, when you're trying to compete for Europe, you need those standout players. You need those star players to stay. So as a fan, I'm hoping he stays, but I'm sure the club will just be trying to maximise how much money they can get from him. And as you said, Matt, I think it will be a considerable amount of money, but I don't think it will dwarf the Caicedo fee.
Yeah, all it takes is for him to have one good season. This season, they could command an even higher fee, couldn't they? You spoke to Albion head coach Fabian Hertzler, Sam, after the Wolfsburg game. What did he have to say about the rumours surrounding Belieber, and how confident is he that the Cameroonian will still be a Seagulls player come the end of the summer transfer window?
Yeah, so he basically just confirmed that Belieber was back in training. He trained on Saturday, the day of the match, and he also trained on the Friday. He said he will be back. He was asked as well about Jack Hinchelwood, and referring to both players, he said, we need these players and every team needs these players. So it's kind of a small bit of a message to perhaps the owners to do everything they can to keep him. He didn't directly kind of refer to any transfer speculation. It's probably not his place to, and it's probably one for kind of those above him, obviously in the boardroom, and obviously the decision makers to see what they can obviously do in terms of fending off any interest from Manchester United this summer. But I was told in no uncertain terms by a club source that on Saturday he was not for sale at that point, and I don't think anything has changed since then. And obviously, speculation is speculation in the day, and I think Brighton, as Henry's discussed, obviously do sell their best players quite often, but what they don't like to do is to be forced into anything when it's not right for them. They want to make sure they have a ready-made replacement, which they're brilliant at doing, and I'm sure they've probably already got a replacement lined up for Belieber when he does inevitably move on. But I would be surprised if he does move on this window for a number of reasons, really. I think the money that will be demanded, I think, probably be above what Man United can feasibly do. I think after all, they've spent big money already this summer on three shiny new attackers, that I will be surprised if they splash the cash big time with Caicedo type money on Belieber. But you never know, a few outgoings and they might be in a position to do that, and it is probably a position in their team that they really need to improve on. So they might really go all guns blazing and put Brighton under pressure to accept. You never know. But as we mentioned, he's got a long contract, and I don't think Brighton will be bullied into doing anything they're not ready to do, and they not have a ready-made replacement for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know how Man United, considering like the three players that you mentioned there, Sam, how they'll be able to afford it, considering we were told that if Jim Ratcliffe didn't put any money in the club, they would have gone bust by Christmas, sacking all the tea ladies and things like that. It's, I don't know how they'll be able to afford it. I don't know how you see it as a Man United fan.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's a strange one, isn't it? Because I think a lot of the talk building into the summer was they'd only be able to make signings if they were to sell players, and they haven't really done that. I mean, obviously Rashford has left on loan, which they've obviously saved up some money in the wage bill in that department. And I know there's been some sell-on clauses as well from players that have left in previous seasons. I think Elanga and Alvaro Fernandez, two key ones. They've had transfers this summer, Man United have got a nice little paycheck. They got some money from Chelsea because they didn't sign Sancho on a permanent deal as per their obligation to do so. So there's been some income in terms of finances, but yeah, seemingly not enough to warrant spending 200 million on new attackers and 100 million on a new midfielder. But I don't know what goes on behind closed doors and how they manage to get some more money. And I think Man United will definitely put the pressure on and see what they can do in terms of getting Belieber in this window, because as Henry said, next summer there will be a bidding war, and you can imagine more teams will be coming in for him, because he quite simply is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League.
Yeah, and there might be a higher quality of team than Man United potentially next summer as well. But yes, we shall see. Going back to pre-season, Henry, we've kind of touched upon it, but how would you rate Albion's summer? They went unbeaten, as is well documented, but is there a concern about the lack of playing time for some of the new boys? I read that, in Sam's match report from Saturday against Wolfsburg that Stefanis Zimas played 5 minutes, I think it was, while Koustalas barely featured at all. Is that a bit of a worry?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fairly solid pre-season, I must say. There's been a few leaky defence issues that will need to be addressed, and sort of gives scary flashbacks of last season of, going a few goals ahead and then not being able to retain a lead. But like you mentioned, not being able to see those two Greek lads perform and have as many minutes as we might have sort of hoped has been a little bit concerning, especially with the outgoings of João Pedro. It seems like those boys are going to be relied on, and not having those minutes in pre-season might, I don't want to say prove costly, but it might take them a little longer to adjust. And if you're throwing them into a pre-season game, I feel like that's a lot less of a risk than throwing them into a Premier League game when there's 20 minutes left, 10 minutes left, and we need to get a goal. Tommy Watson as well is not really featured, and I think it would be interesting to see how he does. But according to Fabian Herzler, who was asked about it during a recent fans forum about the new signings and them not really getting that many minutes, he said that they're sort of still adjusting to the training, getting their fitness up. But it is a shame, and we can't really rely on Danny Welbeck again. That would be quite bonkers. But I feel like we might have to. On a more positive note, it's been really nice to see Harry Howe in the mix as well this season, and he was handed his first Albion appearance by Fabian Herzler at just 17 years old, and it seems like he'll be trusted more this season as well. And then one final takeaway from that final Wolfsburg pre-season game, as Sam touched on quite a bit, is Bart Verbruggen. It's great to see him back. Yes, a couple of mistakes, and he did make a few mistakes last season, but he's such a young goalkeeper, and when it almost looked like Brighton were going to concede their 2-goal lead and get another draw, Bart Verbruggen stood tall, and he was able to come up with some really important saves. And I'm tipping him to have a good season. But yeah, as you said, overall, really good pre-season in terms of results, but it's not really about that. It's just about getting those new signings adjusted to the Premier League as quickly as possible, and hopefully that will happen.
Before we move on to the season opener, Henry, going back to the Greek lads, is there a potential danger that people might put a little bit too much pressure on them to deliver the goals that are maybe expected of them, considering they're only, are they both 19? I know they're both young, aren't they?
Yeah, they're both really, really young. And when you look at the sort of hype around Evan Ferguson when he had his breakout, and it didn't quite work out for him. He was still only young, and all the headlines that were going on at that time. And I know it won't be the same because sort of the English media like to sort of glorify the United Kingdom players, and but at the same time, I do think that those two have got a lot of pressure on their shoulders. They need to make a mark, and whether they do that at the very start of the season and that fills them with confidence, we'll see. I don't know how it will work out. I really don't. It's almost a shot in the dark because you're replacing a proven Premier League striker and Premier League attacking options with also a Dingra that's gone as well, who, although he didn't have a great season last season, I do think that he showed glimmers of quality, and he was also an AFCON winner. So he's clearly got something there about him. This is a little bit of a shot in the dark. It's another analysing the players and their stats, a stats buy almost. Obviously, they've got some quality, but yeah, I am concerned. Because one or two bad games and no goals, and that could drag out. So it's very important that Brighton get off the mark against Fulham. There's been a few bogey results against Fulham, and I went to Craven Cottage last season and watched us, and it was really poor. And we didn't get it right. So it'll be interesting to see how Albion face this one, especially with a lack of experience, and some may even argue a lesser team coming into this season.
Well, brilliantly, we can segue into the Fulham game. Good work, Henry. This Saturday sees the moment Brighton fans have all been waiting for, the opening game of the 2025-26 Premier League season. Albion will entertain Fulham in the first game of the new campaign. The Cottagers finished 11th last season, but have made just one signing this summer, spending £500,000 on French goalkeeper Benjamin Lecomte. Obviously, it's going to be very exciting to get the season underway, Sam. How do you think the game will pan out, and who are the danger men for Fulham? I must admit, we'll do predictions at the end of this podcast, but I fear for Fulham a little bit this season.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware they'd only made one signing, which is bizarre, isn't it? I mean, I know obviously they had a decent year last year, but yeah, you'd expect them to maybe add some more. Obviously, with teams around them only getting stronger and stronger, it can be very easy to slip down the pack if you're not trying to keep up in terms of signings and spending money, which is unfortunately the way football's going. If you don't spend money, you could suffer as a result. But from a Brighton point of view, I don't think Fulham would have been the game they would have chosen for their first game of the season. As Henry's just pointed out, their record isn't great. In the last 10 games in all comps, they've only won once, Brighton. That was in March this year, thanks to João Pedro's stoppage time penalty. That ended a 9-game winless run against the Cottagers in the Premier League. And Fulham have won just one of their last 7 away league games against Brighton, conversely, beating them 1-0 in February 2023. So both teams won 4 games in pre-season. Fulham lost one to Manchester City 2-0, while Brighton were unbeaten, obviously having one draw against Southampton. Brighton, if you look back at their Open League match history, they've won their Open League match in each of the last 4 seasons. It's the Seagulls' longest such run in the league history and the longest current run of any Premier League side. So that actually does bode well for the first game. Fulham have won their Open League match in just one of the last 8 campaigns, winning at 1-0 at Everton in the 2023-24 campaign. But in terms of danger men, I think you watch out for Jimenez, who's always a threat. He scored a great goal against Brighton in that game that Brighton actually eventually won. But it was a great goal from Jimenez, the Amex last season. And Iwobi also has been known to play very well against Brighton on a couple of occasions. I remember he was involved in Everton when they thrashed Brighton at the Amex, and he's a great player. Obviously, the former Arsenal man, and Smith Rowe again, another ex-Arsenal player at Fulham. He's a big threat, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Muniz as well, who's been linked with Leeds. I see this week for I think around £40 million being talked about. So that would be interesting if Fulham were to lose him. That would be another big blow, and they'll definitely have to go out and spend and try and get a replacement, because he's a good player as well. So it's a really tough one to call. I think it always is in the first game of the season. You don't quite know what the team is going to do. It's one thing doing it in pre-season, and there were a few red flags in terms of the defence, and it'd be so important for Belaber to play if he can. Jack Hinshelwood as well. I think it's going to be unlikely with him because we've not seen him at all in pre-season. But yeah, there were a few defensive frailties against Wolfsburg. As I say, they could have scored a hatful if it wasn't for Brugge making a few great saves. So yeah, some question marks to solve, and if they can keep Belaber, then it will be a huge plus.
Yeah, speaking of team news, Henry, what's the latest from both sides? Who are the major doubts, both Albion and Fulham, and how badly will those players be missed for the respective teams?
Well, as we were talking about how sort of bad it's looking for Fulham at the moment, we'll go into them first. But Anthony Robinson, the defender, looks like he will not be playing in the opening games of the season for Fulham. He's not going to be ready, and he was an integral player for Fulham and has been since their promotion to the Premier League in 2022. He's a really solid player, and he's contributed the most assists of any defender in the Premier League last season. So that's a huge miss, and it's going to be interesting to see if he will be missed in a sense of getting goals. I don't think that they will do that well against Brighton, to be honest.
No.
I feel like they're going to have a bit of a shaky one first game in. But sort of going down the list of Brighton injuries, Facundo Buonanotte, his ankle, he hobbled off against Las Palmas, but he did feature in a behind the closed doors 60-minute friendly against Southampton. And in terms of him, he might be on his way out anyway. He might be going to Dortmund, and he also might be going to Bayern Leverkusen. In new reports, they suggest that he might be going there. Solly March's knee is still a bit of a miffed one. He's struggling, but hopefully he'll be back to feature in some of the opening games. That would be interesting to see. Ferdi Kadioglu, he's getting back up to speed, but it'll be interesting to see if he's featuring in the first game. Julio Enciso's knee as well has been playing up, and he's been working on that. There were sort of murmurs of him having surgery on that, but apparently he's stepping up his recovery. And also an unspecified one for Tariq Lamptey. And the biggest blow, in my opinion, is going to be the Adam Webster injury, because he's got that knee ligament injury that we've mentioned in a few podcasts. But that'll be a big one, because with Diego Coppola coming into the mix, and although he's looking good, it is going to beg the question, can he step up to the Premier League quality straight away? Can he stay cool when he's going to get pressurised by these teams that have got really fast-paced attackers? This is a different league, the Premier League. It's relentless. And as we've seen in the past, a little bit further up the pitch with Mats Wiefer, when he's made mistakes last season, you do get punished for it. So as a defender, it's even more pressure. But yeah, I think that will be the biggest blow. And as we mentioned, Fulham's Anthony Robinson as well. That's another defensive worry, and he does provide a lot of attacking threat for them. So Brighton have got a little bit of an advantage coming into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope they make the most of that. Best of luck to Brighton at the weekend. Now we'll take a look at the latest goings on at Crawley Town. And the Reds are still searching for their first League Two win after going down 2-1 at home to Newport County on Saturday. The Exiles went in front when Kai Whitmore rounded goalkeeper Harvey Davis before firing into that in the 68th minute. The visitors doubled their lead just 2 minutes later when Liam Shepherd converted from close range before Max Anderson struck deep into injury time to give the home side faint hope. I think it's safe to say that it's not got any better since Grimsby. Ron, what did you make of Crawley's first home performance of the season, and where was the game lost on the day?
I don't know, it's not been the greatest of starts for Crawley, but it's not been the easiest starts either. Grimsby away is always going to be tough for any team. Newport was perhaps should have been Crawley's first win of the season, but despite having the better chances, we still ended up losing. I felt they played better than they did at Grimsby. We created plenty of chances, just couldn't seem to stick the ball in the back of the net. I mean, Adeyemo had 2 shots well saved by the Newport keeper in the first half, as well as the header in the second. Dion Conroy's free kick was absolutely superbly saved before Max Anderson scored. But the best chance fell to Kabi Shaminga, who got onto a long ball, rounded the keeper, but somehow blazed the shot over the bar from close range. But I certainly believe it was a better performance than the week before.
What was Scott Lindsay's take on the defeat to Newport, Sam? He was a bit blood and thunder, shall we say, after the Grimsby defeat. What was his appraisal? Was it just as damning, or had he softened somewhat?
Well, so it seems like from Lindsay's comments that Crawley simply didn't take their chances. He said that was the real problem today. We had some real gilt-edged chances that we should have taken to put the game to bed. He said we don't take them. They got at the other end and cut for us far too easily on the first goal. But 3 minutes later, they scored off a set piece. He said it's actually a situation they worked on and spoke about in meetings all week about kind of their threat from long throws. They scored against Notts County in a similar fashion, but Crawley were guilty of not marking in the box at the far post, and Lindsay actually described that as criminal. But he said, if you don't take your chances, you're not going to win a game of football. And he said the mood in the dressing room is not great. The players want to win, so do I, and so do all my staff. So you can imagine it's a bit flat. You can hear what the players are saying in there, that we'll not play in a more dominant game this season and lose. But it's only a start. It's not going to reflect what we do this season, but we have to put it right quickly. It seems like Crawley had chances to win that one, but simply didn't take the chances and were made to pay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tuesday night saw the Reds exit the Carabao Cup, losing 3-1 to Championship side Swansea. Talk us through that one, Ron. Was it a better performance? Who stood out for you? And did Gavin Holohan deserve that red card he received?
For me, it was as good a performance as Newport. I thought we played quite well against Newport. The fact that we held a decent Championship side in Swansea City until Holohan's red card is something that the team should be proud of. Harvey Davis made several class saves that kept Crawley in the game. You got Shaminga scoring his first goal for the club. And I thought Charlie Barker, apart from the first 5 minutes where he was sort of passed for the first goal, the player went past him quite quickly. I thought he had a good game after those initial 5 minutes. It was also good to see Joy McKenna back playing for the first time since December 2024. And he had quite a good game as well. Not convinced it was a red, though. It looked a 50-50 challenge to me. And Franco starts rolling around holding his thigh for an injury where it would have been around his ankle. So maybe he made more of it than perhaps he should have. But it's only my opinion. I'm not so sure it was a red.
Did Harry McCurdy deserve that reception?
I don't think so. I mean, he's had... I think he's a very good player. I think he had quite a good game last night. He was sort of the main outlet for Crawley down the right-hand side. Corners were pretty good into the box, found players what he needed to be. I thought he had a good game. But obviously the fans who were there in attendance perhaps don't think so. So I think from what I've seen, there's only one or two fans that were booing him. But as Scott, I think, said, we should be together in this. We need to stick together, and doesn't really need to be. It's only 3 games into his season. Give him a chance of it.
Absolutely. Why do you think, it'd be interesting to get your take on this, why do you think it's been McCurdy in particular who's been singled out for this criticism? It just seems a bit odd that none of the Crawley strikers have been firing it, have they? So why has it been McCurdy who seems to be bearing the brunt of this?
I'm not entirely. I think he might have come with a lot of high hopes, I think, because obviously he came from Hibernian. He's played at a reasonably high level. So I think it may be that they're expecting more from him than perhaps at this moment. I mean, as Scott mentioned, he's sort of hasn't played much, had a few injuries, needs to get himself back into fitness. And when he starts scoring, they'll change their mind again. I just feel that they need to give him a bit of a chance myself.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? New striker at a new club, you're going to take some time to bed in. Sam Morton, what did Mr. Lindsay have to say after that performance at Swansea?
Yeah, so he obviously referring to the McCurdy incident. He said that the fans are brilliant, but he does want to have a moan. He said, "We're in this together. We're together. That's what Crawley is. We haven't got loads, but we've got to stick together. The staff, people in the back office, my players, and the fans have got to support the players." I'm not having Harry McCurdy being booed. I'm not having that at all. The kid has played his first 90 minutes on Saturday. The first time in three years. He's not in a good time, kind of like with injury and illness. So he wants the fans to support the players, please, and not boo and go against them. And he had a golden season under Lindsay at Swindon, actually. And the boss knows what fans can expect from him throughout the season. He said, "You'll love him. He's going to score goals for us and you're going to love him." I'm disappointed to hear a few jeers against him. That can't happen. We have to be connected. We have to stay together. So as Ron said there, disappointing to hear that. But I think it's positive from the performance. Obviously playing against a team in a high division, Lindsay thought they had a really good go at the game. He thought they were excellent in moments. Came across a team that play in a high division. And he thought that Crawley did well on the whole and did show signs of improvements from those 2 league games that haven't gone to plan. He didn't see that he saw a lack of belief in the players, certainly in the first half. So there's definitely signs to be optimistic, but yeah, it's obviously not been a great start at all. Three defeats to start the season is not what you want. So it can only get better, and they really do need to start picking up some points in the league sooner rather than later.
Yes, absolutely. And I hope Harry McCurdy starts firing the back of there. It's bizarre to me that he's been singled out for this criticism. Hopefully he finds the back of the net soon. As Sam mentioned, the Reds will be hoping to pick up their first 3 points of the season when they visit Crewe on Saturday. The Railwaymen currently sit top of the League 2, albeit after 2 games, having picked up 2 wins from their opening fixtures against Salford and Accrington respectively. Early days, Ron, but it looks like it'll be a tough test for the Reds against Alex. Who are the Crewe danger men, and can Crawley finally break that unwanted duck?
Yeah, Crawley's defence will have to be on top form. They've won both of their games by 2 clear goals. Midfielder Connor Thomas scored twice in 4 minutes against Salford, so he's a player to look out for. As well as Josh Marsh, who set up both their goals in a 2-0 win at Accrington at the weekend. It will be difficult for Crawley. Crewe are one of the better sides in the division. Will always be near the top. They've not got the best record at Crewe either. I think the last time they won there was 2016. So they've not had the best of record. They've not got the best of records at Crewe. In the playoff season where we beat them in the final, we lost both games in the league. So it is definitely going to be a tough game. But I know we're going to go predictions in a little while, but I can see Crawley sneaking a point ahead.
Yeah, perfect time to break that record, isn't it? The Reds are then in action on Tuesday night, and it's set to be a spicy one as Crawley entertains Scott Lindsay's former club MK Dons. At the time of recording, the Dons, who boast former Reds Rushian Hepburn Murphy and Liam Kelly, sit sixth, having picked up a win and a draw from their first 2 games. It'll no doubt be a feisty encounter at the Broadfield. Sam, how desperate will Lindsay be to get one over on his former employers? And what kind of reception do you think Hepburn, Murphy and Kelly will receive? I know that fairly popular, weren't they, during their time at the Reds?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think this will be a really good opportunity for Crawley to get off the mark for the campaign. Obviously, there will be an added incentive for Scott as well to go back and prove them wrong, maybe. That he will obviously want to prove that he was the right man for them. And he's obviously he's going to have a bit between his teeth to not only beat MK Dons, but to get the first win in the campaign, because it's looking a bit sticky. If you lose the first 2, it can very quickly become into a difficult run where you can't get out of. So if they can get a win here, it'll be a real morale boosting moment, I think. But in terms of MK Dons, they drew the opening league game 0-0 at home to Oldham, and they then beat Barrow 2-0 away, then lost in the Carabao Cup 2-0 at Bristol City. So they're unbeaten in the league, which should obviously be the priority for them just as much as Crawley. And yeah, you mentioned Liam Kelly and Hepburn Murphy are involved. They started all 3 games actually for MK Dons so far this season. And no sign of Lawrence Maguire yet this season. I'm not sure if he's picked up an injury, but if he is there, he'll get a good reception too, because I think it's especially Kelly, part of that team, historic season that got Crawley promoted via the playoffs at Wembley, and he obviously scored the all-important goal, second goal as well. So I think he'll get a great reception. And Hepburn Murphy as well. He obviously wasn't involved in such a historic season in that sense. He's obviously part of the team that got relegated, unfortunately, but he was a good player for Crawley, and he'll be remembered fondly for his contributions. And I think he should get a good reception as well.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed for 6 points this week for Crawley Town as well. And score predictions, and for the first time this season, we have a full complement of Brighton and Crawley games. We'll start with Brighton's opener against Fulham on Saturday. Starting with you, Sam. How do you see this one going?
I think Brighton will win this one. I think it will be a tight game, as it always is against Fulham, but I'll go for a 2-1 win for Brighton.
Henry, do you share Sam's confidence?
I think it's going to be really nervy. I don't think there'll be a lot of goals in it, and I think that it will be 1-0 to Brighton. I think they'll just nick it at the end. It'll be quite a scrappy goal.
Ron, we're going for a clean sweep, if I can say, of Brighton wins.
Yeah, I think Brighton will win 2-0. I think I think Fulham are going to struggle this season, as we said before.
Absolutely. Well, fingers crossed that does happen. And now we'll take a look at Crawley's games. They're up to Crewe on Saturday. Tough one, Ron. What do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely a tough one, but I think, as I said earlier, they can eke a point. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw.
Any chance of a first win of the season at Crewe, Sam, or would they be more than happy with the point?
Yeah, I think they'll be happy with the point. I think just get off the mark at least, and if they can get a point there and then beat MK Dons, that'll be positive. So yeah, I'll go for 1-1.
Henry, finally, how do you see things? What do you reckon?
It's a clean sweep of 1-1. I feel like I wanted to be weird and interesting, but I thought actually no. That I think like Ron was saying and Sam, you need to get off the mark, and they've obviously done quite well early on. So yeah, a point would show positive signs to do better things.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And finally, we've got Crawley's home game against MK Dons. Ron, I've got a sneaking suspicion that Crawley are going to absolutely batter MK Dons. I don't know whether or not I'm being wildly optimistic.
I think they could quite easily batter them, but I think it's just going to be a 1-0 win for Crawley. I think they need to get that win on the board. It may be a case of a late winner or an early goal, and we'll just see what we can do. But it may be, like you say, we could quite easily batter them. We should have probably beaten Newport by 2 or 3 at the weekend. We just couldn't stick the balls away. So hopefully, Chaminga scoring on last night with his first goal, and maybe McCurdy can get his tally up and running just to keep, Yeah, I'll go for 1-0 win.
1-0 win would be all right, wouldn't it, Sam? You'd take that?
It would be. Yeah, I'd take that. I think they'll concede that. I think it'll be 2-1. 2-1 Crawley.
Or are you also going for a clean sweep of wins here for Crawley Town, Henry?
I'm not this time. No, I reckon it's going to be a really feisty game. I think it's going to be a feisty game, and they're both going to be up for it. So I'm going to go full out. I'm going to say 3-3 and a red card for each side. God.
Blimey.
Game for the neutrals.
Sports journalist nightmare, I think, that one, writing up that match report. And finally, before we wrap things up, do you want to make a few Premier League predictions? Should we make fools of ourselves? Yeah, go on, why not? Sam, right, where do you think Brighton will finish this season?
That is putting me on the spot. I think that Europe will be a bit of a push for them, especially if Believer was to leave. That a lot could hinge on that. If Believer does leave and they don't have a proper replacement for him, that could spell trouble. But assuming they keep him, which I think they will, I think they will finish 7th.
Ooh, 7th. Henry, what do you reckon? Would that constitute a good season for Brighton, 7th?
Yeah, that would be great, but I don't think we're going to do it. I think you've lost a really cool head and a goal machine in João Pedro, and that's going to come at a loss. And you've also got another process of building players up again, getting them into the Premier League, learning how to sort of deal with that pressure. So I think realistically, Brighton are going to finish 9th. I think a top 10 finish for Brighton is realistic. I know fans will be expecting Europe, but you can't expect Europe. It's good to see Brighton as a team that can push for top 10. So I think that should be the aim, and they'll finish 9th.
What do you reckon, Mon? How do you reckon Brighton will do this season?
Yeah, I think they've got a top 10 finish there. I'll just go in the middle and say 8th, because it's that way we probably won't to be right. I can definitely see a top 10 finish. The way they've played the last couple of seasons, as Henry said, it's great to see Brighton as a side that settled themselves in the Premier League as a middle table top 10 team. Pushing for Europe would be great, but I just think they'll just miss out on the last couple of weeks of the season.
Penultimate question before we go into general predictions, Henry. Will Brighton win a trophy this season?
No. And I'm absolutely gutted by the way that Crystal Palace have won the Community Shield and the FA Cup. I can't tell you how seething I am right now. I can't tell you how upset I am, genuinely upset. But no. I don't think Brighton will win a trophy, but it'd be great to have a cup run. I mean, if we were able to go to Wembley and have a good go, that would be ideal. We like a Wembley run. So it'd be nice. It'd be nice to see us at Wembley and performing.
I suppose it's probably a bit of a horrible question me answering, Henry. That do you reckon? They've definitely got it in them to win a trophy, haven't they, Sam? Make no mistake.
I think so. I think they've actually got some depth as well. If they can get the Greek lads firing, if they settle down quickly, I think there are some options there. We've seen in pre-season you can play Jorginho up front, and obviously if you've got the 2 Greek strikers that can come in, there's a lot of options there, and I feel like there is some real solid depth in most of the positions in the team. We've seen them obviously play 2 pre-season games against both Southampton and Wolfsburg, and they've been able to field 2 entirely different 11s, and both look pretty strong, to be honest. So I feel like that does bode well, and obviously a lot will depend on if they can keep players fit and not have any damaging injuries that we've already seen, obviously, to Adam Webster and that kind of thing. So as long as they can avoid anything like that, I think they can definitely have a good run in the Cup. And as Henry said, Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup, and then going back to Wembley and winning again in the Greenish. So I think that's only going to give Brighton an extra incentive to have some glory for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Ron, do you reckon they'll be able to lift a pot this season, or just because the sheer amount of quality in English football, it does make it incredibly hard, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. I think they've got a chance at the Carabao Cup. That's probably their best chance of winning, because you see a lot of the bigger sides that feature in Europe won't play the full strength teams. We saw Newcastle win it last season, so you might find that it's that's something Brighton should perhaps look to win rather than the FA Cup. But yeah, I can see them picking up the Carabao Cup.
That'd be a great achievement for him. And last one for me, a nice easy one. Sam Morton, who will win the Premier League and who will get relegated?
Oh, that is a tough one as well. I think in terms of winning the league, I think you can't look past Liverpool. They won the league last year and they've only made themselves stronger. And I can't believe kind of the amount of money they've gone out and spent. Apparently they're going to be signing 2 brand new centre backs, including Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace. That looks like it could be happening, and Isak as well. Apparently doing everything he can to force a move out of Liverpool. And if you put him in attack with Florian Wirtz, STK, Salah, it's a strong looking team. To be honest, if they've still got the former Albion man in Alexis McAllister in there as well, and obviously they've added Frimpong, Kirkes from Bournemouth. Really strong team. I can't look past Liverpool. And in terms of relegation, I think we often see teams come up, go straight back down, don't we? I think it would be perhaps the likely scenario, I think, maybe for Sunderland to be among them to go back down. Leeds is an interesting one. I think I'm not too sure where Leeds are at. I think one of my mates supports them and says they need to sign a striker. They're suffering from maybe not having enough goals in their team. So a lot will depend on that. And then the last team to go down, I'm going to go West Ham. I'm going to throw a curveball in there. They nearly went down last season, and things weren't looking too good for them. They lost Mohamed Kudus. He's gone to Spurs, and they're fully reliant on Jared Bowen. I think if something was to happen to him, they would be in problems. So I think that's my 3 to go down.
Agree, disagree, Ron? Who are you tipping for the title, and who do you think will go down?
I have to agree Liverpool. I think Chelsea will probably be there or thereabouts again. They look like they've improved their side, certainly signing João Pedro, as mentioned earlier. As for going down, I can see Burnley and Sunderland. I think Leeds will probably stay up. That will please my stepson, who's a Leeds fan. I don't know about the other two. I think Fulham will struggle, so I think Fulham will probably go down.
Henry, you get the last word. Who's going to win the title and who's going down? If you say Crystal Palace are going to get relegated, I'm going to ask you to pick another team. So you're not allowed to say Crystal Palace.
I was going to say Brighton to win the league, Palace to go down. That's fair. I'm going to throw a few curveballs. I think that Chelsea have the potential to win the league this season. I think that the depth and the chemistry is finally setting in, and we've seen glimpses of that and some really quality moments in the Club World Cup. So if they're able to do that, then there's no reason why they can't win the Premier League. But I think it'll be a race between them and Liverpool, but they'll just pip it. In terms of sides to go down, I'm thinking Leeds will go down. I do think Fulham might go down. It's a tricky one. I get what you're saying with West Ham, Sam, but I do think Sunderland will go down. So, but I think it'll be a bit more tricky this season because the players that have been bought from all the I was going to say relegated sides, the sides that have just come up. It's looking promising and it's good to see. So I think that they'll have a good go at all the sides. That title race I think is going to be really interesting this season.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. What about me? I nearly got away with it. I think I can't. It's going to be between Liverpool and Man City, which is a very brave answer of me to say. I think Liverpool probably just nick it. And I'm predicting that Sunderland and Leeds will both stay up. And I reckon Fulham, Burnley and Brentford will go down. I say Brentford because they've got an unknown manager. And they've lost most of their big name players, haven't they?
That's a good point. And Boomer and Wissa. Boomer's gone. Wissa might be leaving. Yeah.
So those are my three. And anyone who's watching it who disagrees, our Twitter handles are all in our profile pictures. So if you disagree with this, you know where to send any complaints. So yes, we're bound to look foolish as the season progresses, but it'll be exciting nonetheless. Thank you very much for joining us this week, chaps, for this bumper episode. You can catch up with all the latest sports news covering everything we've talked about today at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. Thank you very much for listening and or watching, and we will see you all next week.